basically it's pretty simple. All you have to do is just sign your name and say that you're a member, and you are. And of course we hope that you come and attend and all of that. But in preparation for that meeting, I'm going to be passing around a clipboard, and whether you are a new member or whether you are a returning member, I'd like for you to sign if you wish to be a member for the coming year. Primarily, we're going to be using this list to determine who votes at the annual meeting. Okay?
I have a question, Doug.
What is the date of the actual meeting?
Oh, I can't tell you.
Stop.
I think it's in October, but it may be in November.
To kill you.
Right, it has to be a surprise.
Do you know what the date is?
Sorry.
Remember?
We haven't said it yet.
Well, it's in the bylaws. It's like the second Sunday of October or something. Or November.
Stay tuned for your email and Facebook. Hi there.
Coming soon to the center near you. Okay. We ring the bowl in universal oneness. Feel the vibration that unites us in love and peace. The candle symbolizes the Christ light presence in all of us. You already know I'm Mark Ballard. The next thing, I'd like to encourage you to turn off your cell phone. You got just a second, and then trying to be a good example, I shall do the same for myself. And if you let me, I'd like to read to you the mission and the vision statement. Follow along if you would. The Center for Universal Oneness is a place where those who want support on their spiritual journey may join with others for mutual encouragement, inspiration, and guidance. The Center draws on those practices based on new thought and metaphysical approaches. The higher Christ consciousness provides a foundation. We strive to live in the oneness of love. And then for vision, you could say that we're extending into the world faith, love, peace, and joy. So that's your job for the rest of the week until I see you again. There you go. Doug, keep your breath.
Let us pray. Divine Spirit, we have come together. We put you in our heart and minds as one. One in our community, one in our world, one in the universe, and beyond. Help us remove our illusions of separateness from one another. Help us set aside our self-absorption where we do not think of our oneness. Help us understand that our extension into the world of your qualities is of more importance than many of the things that we spend our time in. Let us learn to do that as we pass by. We are grateful, Lord, for all the blessings that you have brought us and provide to us each and every day. And we say thank you for the opportunity to share in your oneness. Amen.
This morning we have the joy of hearing Kelley Hunt. And for me, this is an excitement. I enjoy Kelley's music, and I enjoy the way Kelley plays.
Yeah! Woohoo!
You guys have seen her before, heard her before. I'll skip a whole lot of introduction. The one thing that caught me is she's working on her 7th album. That's productivity.
Wow.
Yeah, you bet. And so look for that stuff wherever you find albums. Here's Kelley.
Packed house at Knuckleheads not too long ago.
Wow.
Okay.
Well,
there
and
you
she's
go.
got CDs on it.
Are there CDs on the table?
There are.
Okay, so there you go. That's important. Thank you. CDs on the table.
Well, good morning, everybody.
Good
All right. It's really a joy and a pleasure to be back here with you. I'm so glad to be here tonight. Well, this time it wraps around you. This time it sets you free. This time don't hold back. This is who you were meant to be. This time, well, why are you still waiting for your real life to begin? Standing in the shadow of where you've always been. Why let somebody tell you your life is not worth your dream? Why believe your power is something wrong or too extreme? This time it wraps around you. This time it sets you free. This time don't hold back. This is who you were meant to be. This time, now there's a million new diversions to keep you from yourself, to distract you from your beauty and realizing your well. Pull aside the curtain between the present and the grave. You know all you need to know to live a life that's true and brave. I said this time, this time.
I like it.
Well, if you like it, it's
We also have the joy of having Ron McCorkle this morning. And you guys, of course, have all heard from Ron before, and we get to hear from Ron again. One of the things that caught me about Ron is he's a certified recreation specialist. Says so right there. I want to be a certified recreation specialist. Or maybe I just want to practice a lot. How about that? Ron, will you? Oh, I'm sorry. Will you come and get us?
Good morning.
Good morning.
First of all, I'd like to say thank you very much for allowing me to join you and to come back again. So I'm glad to be here. And when I heard from Barb and she said, would you be able to do something on September 2nd? And I said, yes, I'm free. And then I got to thinking, oh, it's Labor Day weekend. There'll probably be 3 or 4 people there and I won't have to do much. But I'm glad to see there's more than 3 or 4 people. But I got to thinking about what would I talk about. And I'm not going to talk about work and all of the things you should be doing on Labor Day. I mean, whoever started that idea anyway, you know. I think it was intended for people to rest on Labor Day, but we all took it as this is time for us to catch up and to start getting ready for the coming of fall. Well, I've decided that I'm going to talk to you this morning about life and the big parade of life. The title of my talk, as you've probably noticed, is The Big Parade. And so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about life. I'm going to ask you a question. You don't really have to answer, but just kind of think about it. How many people do you know that are missing out on the big parade of life? I think we can all probably identify at least one person, if not more, who don't engage themselves in what life has to offer. So they sit back and don't do anything. And my thinking is that when you don't engage in life, especially engaging with others of like-minded thought and purpose, that your life really doesn't have a whole lot of meaning. These people sometimes, I won't say all of them, but a big majority of these people more than likely engage in a lot of negative self-talk. And what does negative self-talk do? It leads us not only into feeling sorry for ourselves, feeling unworthy, and oftentimes being depressed because I don't mean anything to anybody, not even myself. Well, my thinking about this is that if you allow yourself to become engaged with others, then you actually can improve the quality of your life. In order to do that, though, I think that it's necessary that we stop, take a minute, maybe Labor Day weekend, and do a self-inventory of where do I fit in the greater scheme of things? What am I lacking if that happens to be a problem? Or what do I need to do to improve my connection with the world around me? So, I think that it's really important that we kind of determine the areas of focus for ourselves. And the first thing, of course, is how are we socially? Do we mix with other people? Do we seek chances to engage with others? Do we get past our front door to do things other than go to work or just sit? Now, a lot of these people who don't get out and they don't mix and mingle could be considered introverted, and they're just, that's just the way they are. And there are some people like that. I think the majority of people who don't engage, who don't take the effort to get out and about, more than likely have issues with self-esteem, self-confidence, the lack of feeling like I belong to something greater than myself. So we want to take a look at ourselves socially. What are we doing? What are we not doing? What do we need to do in order to improve our life's purpose? The next one is, how are we physically? You know, you have to be really in pretty good shape. And as you all know, I'm not exactly in the best shape, but I'm here. I keep trying. But you have to make sure that you are taking care of yourself physically, health-wise, whether that means you're going to doctors or you're going to holistic practitioners, but doing something for yourself to keep your body engaged with itself. Because if your body's engaged with itself, then the rest of you can engage with other things in the world. You want to also pay attention to, how am I intellectually? Well, probably most of us here in this room don't have to worry about that. But some people maybe, have you ever heard of that saying about educated fools? Well, there are some people that would qualify to be very intellectually astute and right at the top of their game. But are they really? If they're not using that intellect to engage with others, to share information, to search and research new ideas, new thoughts, new things to do, then what good is it? If you're not going to share it, if you're not going to use it for the betterment of yourself, it's no good. So we want to check on that. Occupationally, Basically, that means, what do you do for work? And this is one that I think gets a lot of people in trouble, because everybody, not everybody, I'll take that back, but a lot of people think that they don't measure up because their job isn't like a high-paying job, or they're not in charge of a whole department, or they don't make enough money to have that 5-bedroom home and the pool in the back and all of that stuff. But the thing that I think about this is that no matter what your job is, or what other people's jobs are, somebody's got to do it. And I think that, this is just my thinking, but I think that because there is a plan for everything, that God's plan, our divine purpose, leads us to do the things that we do. And so we shouldn't do any occupational shaming. That's the big term now. We don't body shame, we don't whatever shame, car shame, all of that stuff. So we don't occupationally shame anybody for whatever job they have. Now, I, for a fact, know that I would not want to be a maintenance engineer -- garbage man. But somebody's got to do it. But if you stop and think about it, compare their salary with some other jobs, they're doing quite well. And I applaud them for saying, I don't mind picking up your trash, I'll take care of it, I'll do that. And why do they do that? Because somebody's got to do it, and it affects all of us, one way or the other. So then we talk about how are we doing culturally in our lives? Are we doing things to allow people to understand and interact with our culture? Are we sharing ideas and implanting, especially in our children? Hi there. Especially our children, are we implanting, oh, there's another child back there. Okay. Are we implanting in our children the idea that culturally our nation is made up of many, many, many different peoples? They all have different backgrounds. Their parents pass along their parents' background, and it goes back, and back. However, we want to also instill in our children that it's okay to be different. So when they have like the ethnic festival, it's a good time to take your kids to the ethnic festival so they can see what other children do, what other families do. I shy away from this one because I'm a very picky eater, but what other cultures eat, there are some things I will not do. But the exposure, I think, is really important for all of us to understand, to know, and to learn. You know, people often ask me, what is your background? And I say, well, it's really kind of Heinz 57, but I'm part Cherokee Indian, I'm African American, but if you go back and back and back in my family, I also have relatives from Caucasian roots in my family. So it's like, I'm all of you, and you're all of everybody else. So I think it's important that we understand that, so that when we do engage in life, we engage more or less on an equal plane. We're all in this together. And you know, I heard that out north there's some organization called the Church for Universal Oneness. I have a feeling that they probably would hang on to this idea too, that it's okay to be who you are, it's okay to share who you are, because we're all one. Now, how are we emotionally? For some people, this is a big one. We have to pay attention to how we interact, but most importantly, how we react to the things around us. You know, we can lose control, fall apart, break down, fall to pieces over most anything. And I think we all have done that maybe a time or two in our life. But we also have to have the ability to step back, assess what's going on with us, and to make any changes if we need to have changes made, to seek help if we need to have help, to allow ourselves to be the person that God wants us to be. So we want to pay attention to what we're doing in regards to our mental health, our emotional health, and most importantly, I think really how we reach out and touch other people and how we allow them to reach out and touch us. You know, there are those people that don't like to be touched, but you know, energy does such a great thing. You don't have to touch people really, but you can send them your energy and let them feel your love and let love do the work. Just be the conduit for that. Also, when we talk about emotions, I want to really mention the word feelings. Whoa, 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 feelings. Oh, no. I don't want to talk to you about feelings, though. You know, sometimes our skin is really pretty thin, and our feelings get hurt really easily. And we take that as, nobody loves me, nobody cares, I'm not worthy, I don't belong here, what's wrong with me? It's not necessarily that there's anything wrong with you, it's just that perhaps you need to pay a little more attention to how I feel and how I react to things from a feeling level. Please understand that I have a long poem, it's like 2-3 pages long, and the title of it is The Way I Feel Is Up to Me. And so we can let outside influences bug us to the point of sometimes no return, but we can allow ourselves to get in a place where I feel so bad I don't have the energy to do anything else. And most of the time these feelings are turned inward, and we always think there must be something wrong with me. Well, I'm here to tell you that there's nothing wrong with you, because we all have feelings, we all feel. It's what we do with those feelings that makes us who we are. So these people that are not engaging in the big parade of life more than likely have something that's going on with them that's telling them, and actually they're telling themselves, because that self-talk thing, they're telling themselves, you're safe right here where you are, because if you get out there and mix with those other people, they're going to notice your flaws, they're going to point them out to you, you're going to feel worse, so just stay here and do what you do and isolate and be lonely and be alone. And being alone is really not a whole lot of fun. I do very well alone when I want to, but I have to engage with other people. I have to get out and about, and I think it has a lot to do with our attitude towards life, towards ourself, and most importantly, the attitude that we have with the world around us. Now, I'm not going to go into this very deeply, but I am going to mention that right now, as you all know, our country is very divided. That's to be expected, but we can't let our feelings get in the way of us still enjoying life to the fullest, for the best we can for ourselves. And I've run across so many people recently that are so miserable and so depressed about how things are going in our country today. And I tell them, you know, this too shall pass. My sister used to say, from the day that you're born till you ride in the hearse, there's nothing so bad that it couldn't have been worse. So I have to keep thinking that, yes, we're going to get through this, however it's affecting us, one way or the other, and it doesn't really matter, because people on both sides are affected, And then those ones in the middle are like between a rock and a hard place. You know, they're being pulled back and forth. But things do get better. Change, as you know, is good. And some people will question that and say, well, what if it changes for the worse? Well, it might, it could, but what are you going to do about it for yourself? You have to take care of yourself. Another thing that I always say, it sounds very selfish, but in order to be able to interact and share and engage with other people, you have to take care of yourself first. You know, it's like when you're on that airplane and they say if you have a child, you give them the oxygen mask first before you put it on yourself. That would be one of the times I think that we have to not put ourselves first and think about our child and then do it for ourselves. But the big thing is that whatever life presents to us, we have to be able and ready to react to it, and react to it in a way that's going to be beneficial not only to ourselves, but hopefully to those around us. So, the biggie, how are we doing spiritually? Now, a lot of people mix spirituality and religion. And as you all know, that is not a great mix. It's kind of like that oil and vinegar thing, really. However, if you shake it up and pour it over your salad, it's okay. Now, if you don't like vinegar and you put it in your salad, you're probably going to get still that little taste of, I don't like this so well, but that olive oil sure tastes good, and it outweighs that little bitterness of the vinegar, so I can live with that. Spiritually, I think we have to be concerned about how we interact with not only the earth, but the earth's byproducts, as well as we have to have some way of expressing our gratitude for being who we are, for being here where we are, and most importantly, to know who we are spiritually. And when I say to know who we are spiritually, what I mean is that if we know who we are spiritually, then we don't get jerked around. We don't get hoodwinked into things that are not going to be supportive of our purpose. Because, you know, we all have a divine purpose, and sometimes it takes a while to discover what that is. I don't remember if I told you the story the last time I was here about one of my near-death experiences where I was in the hospital. Well, I spent 7 months at St. Luke's Hospital recovering from a very simple, what they thought was going to be a very simple surgery. However, it turned out not to be that. Thank God most of the time I didn't know what was going on, but I have some recollection of a few things. It wasn't pretty. But I'm laying in bed, and this guy walks into my room, and he gets right up next to the bed, dressed impeccably. I thought, well, somebody from Gentleman's Quarterly magazine is paying visits, you know. But he walks right up beside the bed, and he says, "Well, my man, it looks like you've been to the other side of the darker side of hell and back. By all intents and medical purposes, you shouldn't be among us. The Lord has work for you to do." And he turned around and walked out the door. And I'm going like, what's this all about? You know, I immediately thought, somebody's playing a joke, or this is really crazy, or whatever. But the interesting thing was, the minute he walked out of the door, a nurse came through the door. They should have bumped into each other. So I'm pointing to this nurse. By the way, I had a tracheotomy, so I wasn't able to speak. So I'm pointing to the door like crazy, and the nurse goes and she looks out, and she says, well, about 3 days later, they started teaching me how I could cover the hole and I could actually speak a bit. So the nurse was there, and I said, who was that doctor that was in here the other day? And she said, what doctor? I said, the one that was all dressed in blue and all everything was perfect. And I said, you ran into him when you came in the room and he was leaving. She said, I didn't see anybody. So then she said, I'll ask the staff. She said, I don't think we have anybody that comes here that looks like that. I'll ask the staff if they know who it was. So a while later she comes back and she says, nobody knows who that was and nobody ever saw him. So then I thought, well, okay, I'm sure I didn't have an out-of-body experience, I think. I'm not going crazy, I hope. You know, what in the world is this all about? So I finally got to the place where I said, okay, if the Lord has work for me to do, please tell me what that is and I'll do it, but I have to know what it is that you want me to do. Well, this incident happened in 2004. And you know what? The Lord has never said, oh, by the way, Ron, I'm going to send you a text and tell you exactly what you need to be doing. So I finally decided that perhaps I'll stop, first of all, I'm going to stop worrying about what it is that I'm supposed to be doing. But then I said, perhaps I'm already doing it. And I think, after thinking about that for quite some time, I think that we all are doing exactly what we're supposed to be doing at the time that we do it. Now, do we sometimes do things that we go back and second guess? Yes. Why? Because we're human. Do we sometimes make the same mistake over and over again before we get it? Yes. Why? Because we're human. Do we sometimes point the finger at other people who we think should be doing something great and wonderful and they're not doing it? And then when you do that pointing thing, you know, you have three fingers pointing back at you and you go, oh, excuse me, I'm sorry about that. It'll never happen again. But remember, we do make mistakes and we do repeat things over and over. So that's why I think it's so important that we also attach to this interaction and quality of life, the big parade of life, that we attach the idea that it's okay to make mistakes. It is okay to forgive ourselves for any mistakes that we have made. And most importantly, it's okay for us to be thankful. Now, in this thing called life, this big parade of life, we would like for our lives to be whatever we want them to be. You know, some people want fame, some people want fortune, some people just want love, some people just want things. You know, I say that it's real important as we travel through this big parade that we are very, very careful what we ask for. And the reason I say that, you know, you've heard that old thing, be careful what you ask for, you might get it. Well, you see, the universe never says no. It always says yes. So we have to be very, very clear on what it is that we want, because sometimes what we ask for, if we got it, we probably wouldn't have the consciousness to deal with it. And what does that do? It throws us right back into that business of, well, gee, I wanted this and I got it and I still don't know, and so I feel bad about myself because, well, I wasn't worthy in the first place. So I think it's really, really important that we get very clear as to what it is that we want. You see, the universe wants us to have exactly what we want for ourselves, and it always says yes. And sometimes when we ask for something that we think that we want and we don't get exactly what it is that we've asked for, that's the universe's way of saying, I think you probably would want to rethink this thing again, and perhaps you're not ready for what you've asked for, and you know, I'll give you as many chances as you want, but I want you to be very clear so that I can say yes and give it my stamp of approval so that you actually do flourish and you actually then can say, wow, life is good. I'm good. You know, this parade thing is not such a bad thing. So remember that negative thinking leads to negative things. So we always want to be aware of what we're saying, speaking, doing, so that we get the best quality that we can. Now, some people say, well, it's really hard. I'm surrounded by negativity all the time. How do I get out of it? Well, you may be surrounded by negativity all the time, but it's up to you to decide for yourself, is this feeding me spiritually? Is it affecting me emotionally? And most importantly, what is it doing for me in my interaction with my fellow human beings? So you want to be really careful. The thing about that is that basically all we have to do, and this is a hard one, of course, we have to change our thinking to change our life. If we change the way we think about things, then our life will go along that way. If we don't change our thinking, it stays exactly right where it is. So there's no right or wrong for anybody. Everybody is doing what they need to be doing at any given part of time. So my suggestion is that after you take this personal inventory and you know where you are and you're very clear about what you want, that you go into meditation and just be still and allow the yeses to come to you, because they surely will. Now, let me see. See, I wrote all these notes down and I didn't really need them. Thank you, God. So what I'd like for you to do now for me is go back in your mind as far as you need to. And I want you to think just for a second or two about the first time you ever engaged or ever saw your first parade. And what did that do for you? What did that feel like? I'm probably sure that, first of all, the anticipation of getting there, and most of the time your first parade was probably something that your parents drug you to because they wanted to go. And you're fidgeting around and wondering what in the world is this all about. But the minute that marching band turns the corner and you see all those flashy instruments and you hear that drum beat, you get really, really excited. And you have anticipation that has built up that you would never imagine. And not only the band, but then all the other stuff that goes with it. Now, I came from a very small town, so every year at homecoming there was always a parade. And we're going into parade season now because we've got, the American Royal coming up, which is kind of, I think, sort of defunct now here in Kansas City as far as the fellows coming in and seeing all the Blue Jackets. But, Labor Day probably is the last time for a community effort parade kind of thing. And even now it makes me mad. Yes, I get mad. It makes me mad that when I watch football on Sunday afternoon, I don't get to see the marching bands on the field. Now, why is that? Because I have a history, first of all, of being in a marching band. I also enjoy music. I also remember the very first time that I had to be a part of making formations on the field with 100 people. And I remember my very first try, finally the whistle blew and I looked around and there was nobody around me. And I was on the 30-yard line and they were like on the 40 on the other side. And I went, oops, I guess I went the wrong way. So, but all of that comes back when I see a parade, no matter what it is. And then see, we have the Macy's parade, the Rose Bowl parade, all of those are coming up. Big, wonderful events. And the thrill that people get from that is the same thrill that I would like for us to get from life. Because life is one big parade. So, let's see where we are. Yeah, well, life really is a happy song. And all we have to do really is to sing along. So, Life is such a happy song,
and you're a fool if you don't sing along. Spring is over much too soon for those who hum a different tune.
The big parade passes by your window. There's joy and laughter ringing in the streets below.
Come on, come on,
The big parade is passing.
what good is living in a world you never know? Days run into weeks and years, and all your hopes and dreams turn into tears.
Light it on fire.
And we slip away. So why be foolish with today? The big parade passes by your window. There's joy and laughter ringing in the streets below. Come on, come on, the big parade is passing. What good is living in a world you'll never know? Come and hide your heart no more. You'll find a brand new world outside your door. Life is still a happy song. You only have to sing along.
The big parade
Passes by your window. There's joy and laughter ringing in the streets below. Come on, the big parade is passing. What good is living in a world you'll never know? The big parade passes by your window. There's joy and laughter ringing in the street below. Come on, the big parade is passing. What good is living in a world you'll never know?
So, who needs a band when you have this? Okay. So, just remember that life really is a big parade. We all can be a part of it. We all have a place in it. We can all march in it. And sometimes we can stand along the sides of the street and watch it. But if you stay in your house, isolated from other people, and you're not engaging socially, you're really missing out. So my encouragement is that we all make the effort whenever we can to take advantage of the fact that the universe has a plan for us. And that plan, yes, definitely is different for each one of us. But in the greater scheme of things, we're all a part of the same band. So, come on. The big parade is passing. So let us take that thought into meditation. Just allow yourself to become comfortably seated. And if you can, just take a deep breath. And as you exhale, allow yourself to let go of all of those things that hold you back, prevent you from expressing the you that you are. And just know that you are supported by a loving God that has created a universe that never says no. God, the universe, and all there is wants you to have a life that is filled with joy, with peace, with love, with an overflowing of abundance, and with a sense and feeling that you are okay just the way you are. There's nothing that needs to be changed other than the fact that you pay attention to yourself socially, spiritually, emotionally, culturally, environmentally, and that you have the ability to use your intellect to decide, to discern, and most importantly, to choose for yourself that what you need to lift you up to your highest and greatest unfolding. So, before the parade passes by, I want you to allow yourself to come in tune with yourself. Expressing yourself as a divine creation that you are. So let's not hold ourselves back. Let's make a commitment to ourselves that, yes, I am ready. I am here. Indeed, I am a part of the big parade. This thing called life. This precious gift that we all have to live, to breathe, and to have our being. And most importantly, to co-create and express the truth of who we really are. Knowing that there's only one God, one Spirit, and one life. It is your life. It is the life of God that is forever expressing through you as you. So let us give great and wonderful thanks for the opportunity to know this truth, that wherever I am, God is. All is well. And that Spirit, that which is me, never dies. It always is, always was, and always will be. And for this, we are truly grateful. And we say, thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you for allowing us to come together, to rediscover, to know, to understand, and to decide with clarity that which I must do. So let us release this meditation, these words that have been spoken, back to the universe from which they came, knowing that they can only be multiplied abundantly. And so it is.
Your breath. It's time for the offertory. If you would pick up that basket, and if you would, and let's just pray for a second. And if the rest of you would join me. Oh, goodness, and it's help me, Doug. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all you have a song, or are you songed out?
I always have something.
Well, here's something else.
This is a new day for us. This is a new day for us. This is a new way for us. This is a new way for us. If we will let go, let God, let it be. This is a new way for us. This is a new life for us. This is a new life for us. If we let go, we let God. This will be a new life for us. Oh, this is a new day. This is a new way. This is a new life. If we let go and we let God, if we let go and we let God, this is a new day for
Yeah.
How about community concerns? Yes.
We have a friend that's been through cancer, and now they're testing him for a possible new out.
My goodness.
Waiting for afterwards to come back. We're praying for the best.
Buddy have a name?
Yeah.
Bob. What else, Kim?
You know, Bill Herzog is still on the road with Barb, and he put on Facebook he still wants prayers.
Okay, then.
I don't survive all the hiking.
Ida is standing up. Ida.
I want to say a huge thank you for all your prayers and your cards and your help and your encouragement. And it's great to be on the receiving end. I really get to know what it means. So my heart is so full of gratitude. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. We're glad to have you back.
Glad you're back.
What else?
I would like, excuse me,
Go ahead, Ron.
I would like to to offer prayers on my behalf. When I was here last time, we were planning to do back surgery and hip surgery. That's all been put on hold, but on the 20th of this month, not it's September already, 20th of September, I'm going to be having an ulnar nerve transfer in my elbow. And it's going to take, the recovery time is 14 weeks in a big bulky bandage, and then 8 weeks recovery time. But the expected date of knowing if everything is okay could be as long as 18 months.
My goodness.
So what it's done, it's kind of cut out Christmas engagements and anything
Cool.
that I could do musically. So, as you know, my voice, I still have the problem with the paralyzed vocal cord, but I will either twirl the baton or make noise somehow. All right.
You shall have our prayers. You shall have our prayers. Jerry, tell us.
A friend of mine, how long will it cost each surgery to remove a kidney stone? Go in about 10 days.
Okay. Yes.
My sister-in-law Anna is in the hospital in the Netherlands with a heart condition.
Well, let's say a prayer for all of these people. Join me, if you would please. Centering our hearts and minds in prayer, we let go of any thoughts, worry, or challenge, and simply rest in the stillness. We know that our source of strength and peace comes from God alone. We give thanks for divine order and trust that we are all held in the power of grace. Thank you.
And thank you, Mark, for pitching.
Oh, yeah, no problem. That's all good. That's all good. I don't know Ron for doing his thing.
Yeah.
Kelley for doing hers. I just have to bet you that little musical thing there at the end of Ron's deal came together at the very last moment, and it came off really well.
Oh, yeah.
Well done.
Well done.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Hey, Mark.
Yes.
I know we're a little late, but I think we ought to sing happy birthday to Bill for his 90th birthday.
I know. Congratulations, buddy. Well, all right then, Kelley. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Bill. Happy birthday to you.
Reinforce what I just said about how much I appreciate all the help that I've had with the hospital, people taking me places, visiting and all that. It's really been a great experience. Thank you.
Sir.
Welcome.
Kelley, will you grace us with one more song that doesn't play a song?
And if you know this song, please sing it with me. And if you don't, you'll know it in just a sec.
Lyrics are on the back.
Lyrics are on the back. We let the love wash over us. We let it be. We let the joy. We let the joy wash over us.
Would you all please stand for the prayer of protection? The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And all of God's children say, Amen.